My name is Tunga Rai. I come from Nepal. I belong to Rai Indigenous Peoples of Nepal. I represent here Nepal Federation of Indigenous Nationalities, NEFIN, which is an umbrella organization of indigenous peoples organization in our country.
Super. Can you tell us the importance of human rights and indigenous people's rights for Article 6? Why is it so important to include that? And also, why is it important to include also indigenous people's rights and not just only human rights? And please repeat my question.
Okay. Why it's important to have human rights and indigenous people's rights in Article 6? It is important because Article 6 is about climate mitigation. It's about forest and land sector activities, or it's about carbon sequestration. It's also about carbon trading. So, in summary, it means a lot. So, those climate mitigation actions will be implemented on the ground, and those implementing grounds are the lands, territories, and resources of indigenous peoples in many countries. So there is a great risk that climate mitigation action potentially violates the rights of indigenous peoples and other human rights related issues. So it's very important to have human rights and the rights of indigenous people in Article 6, because it's the rule that will set the rule for climate mitigation, including REDD+ and so many other climate actions. And second thing, why it's important to have also the rights of indigenous peoples, not only human rights in Article 6. The rights of indigenous peoples is human rights, but it's also the collective rights. It's not only individual rights, it's collective rights of indigenous peoples over collective domains of indigenous peoples. This is also to say it's our rights over our land, our territories, our resources. This is where the Article 6 may impact us negatively and positively. If it impacts us negatively, we really need some measures to prevent us from negative impact. But also there are potential areas where indigenous peoples can contribute to climate mitigation actions. So if there is the rights of indigenous peoples can play a role to contribute to climate mitigation. That is why it's important to have human rights and also the rights of indigenous peoples in Article 6. It's not to say that indigenous people's rights are different from human rights, but it's an elaboration of several human rights. On top of that, it's also the collective rights of indigenous peoples over collective domains and collective issues.
And it's recognized in the UN Declaration?
Yes, and it's recognized in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and also in ILO Convention 169. So it's not something new that the countries have to upgrade up. It's just the compilation of several rights that's recognized in the UN system.
Excellent. So what are the dangers of the market mechanism for indigenous peoples?
Market mechanism is one of the elements under Article 6. We indigenous people see some danger, some red line in market mechanisms. That's basically to say market mechanism might undermine non-carbon benefits and non-carbon values, because forests, land, and resources for indigenous people is not just the carbon, just not the economic value. forest and land also have a very spiritual and cultural value for us. That's most likely in a very underline of the market mechanism. So this is one of the fear. Market mechanism may focus mostly on economic benefit and on carbon benefits, but we want to see the market mechanism, it comes, then that should respect non-carbon value of the forest.